Hey there, hi there, ho there out there in spray wash land. Hey, just to give you a quick update, Ray will be joining me just a little bit late again. He's having some computer malfunction issues. I think he says it's computer malfunction issues, and I think it's more vacation just coming back from issues because, he was on vacation for like what, 3 or 4 days. And so he's probably his brain is malfunctioning, not that his computer is malfunctioning, but that his brain's probably malfunctioning from actually having some rest, relaxation, and time off. But he will be joining us. He'll just be a little bit late. Said he shouldn't be more than about 5 minutes late or so. But so before we get into all this, want to give a quick reminder about the huge convention coming up August 17th, 18th, and 19th. And don't forget the classes there. If you're looking to register and sign up for the spray wash classes, if you are a pro member, don't forget to send an email. We're getting ready to send out an email blast, and we'll have some links in there. But send an email to info@spraywashpro.com letting us know, especially for the last class of that, which would be the metal roof cleaning and specialty class. If you were there as a pro member the last time and we did the metal class, it was really, I think it was great. I don't know if Joe's going to be there this time around, but he was a great resource for us while he was there because he's got a lot of good knowledge in that. And so, I mean, I hope he's going to make it. I don't know if he is or not. But so anyhow, again, for those of you, I'm seeing that the numbers are going up now, joining me. Ray will be here in about 5 minutes or so. He's running a little bit behind, says he's having some computer issues. He'll have to come from his phone. And I think it's because he's been on vacation. But anyhow, I do think this is a really important topic because it's about the heat. And right now, man, so there's two things I keep seeing a bunch of pictures of. And we all know what those are. It's either the thermostat in the truck, so the temperature is rising, or it's the gas pump from the truck, right? Because both are insanely high at the moment. And then I had a discussion with somebody that was talking about, the whole greenhouse effect and global warming and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a big believer in that. Do I believe that the world is changing? Absolutely, I do. But I believe it's been changing. And I don't necessarily think that it's the global warming thing. I don't want to get into all that. But and I also talked to somebody else here really, really recently, and he was doing a roof. I'm not going to mention the name just in case he didn't want the information out there. But he was doing a roof, and while he was on the roof, I think he said it took him longer than expected. I think part of it was because of the heat, but the other part of it was I think he wasn't wearing his respirator like he normally does. So the heat, the fumes, you got to remember that's poisonous gases that are coming up, right? And so, he ended up just feeling like he was going to pass out. He came down and ended up, they called an ambulance on him. And when the ambulance got there, they said he was having a heart attack. Now that the one doesn't necessarily beget the other, right? I don't think that a heart attack comes from the heat. Maybe it induced that, whatever. And then later on, come to find out, they said he had a heart attack. I think the emergency room said he was having or had had a heart attack. And then he went to his follow-up doctor, and I might be getting some of it a little bit wrong, and come to find out that the doctor said he didn't have a heart attack. But point still being the same, that the heat, and again, I don't think it's the heat that did it. I'm not trying to say that. But what I am saying is that the heat can be overwhelming, and especially right now. So I personally want to cover really two types of heat, because I think we're dealing with the heat of the outside temperatures, but then we're also dealing kind of with the heat of competition going up, and then kind of doubling back to what we talked about a little bit last week with, recession fears and all that. And so I think there's heat from competition, and then there's the heat that is just exhausting us out there. And luckily for me, I don't have to be out there quite in it as much as I used to. And I find myself now when I go outside, I feel like almost like a wimp a little bit, because I don't spend enough time out there in it anymore. And so when I go out there, it takes me a little bit longer to acclimate than it might you if you're out there doing it all the time. And I want you to think about that too. If you're a business owner and you've got your guys out there working in the field, and you're used to being inside, maybe going out and doing some of the estimates and that kind of thing, but you're not necessarily out in it anymore, and the guys are. So keeping them hydrated is super important. And I think that was the other thing with the person I'm telling you about, the heart attack issue, was that he was severely dehydrated. And that was just from a few hours being up on the roof. And again, I think he said it took him, a lot longer than he had anticipated being up on the roof. But nonetheless, by the time he came down, and I think, matter of fact, he couldn't finish the job. That's what it was. He said he couldn't finish the job. And a lot of that just from being overheated. So first of all, hey, Wild West, great to see you here. Anthony's in here. Again, Ray will be joining us here shortly. Let's see, we got Big Rob. Mr. John Sacco is in the house. MTH is back in the house. Wild West again. Let me see if I can go down because I'm, let's see. Anthony says, I'm in Southwest Florida, and this heat is no joke, especially while on a roof. It is tough. Man, I'm going to tell you what. I mean, so Southern Florida, and just like here in Louisiana, I mean, you guys kind of also have the salt air coming in. And we don't necessarily have that where I'm at, but the humidity is super, super high. And it'll just drain you very, very quick. And you got to keep up with that. Let's see. MTH. Sup, John? Rusty is in the house. Hi, Dougie Doo and Dr. Burke. Dr. Burke is running a little bit late. He'll be joining us in just a few. Nicholas James says, I remember a couple of years ago, it was random to have a day in the hundreds last week alone. We had 3 days in at least the hundreds and more to come. So y'all, something is definitely changing. Absolutely. And that's kind of the point. And Landon Shagan is the one that kind of, helped put this thought into our heads about doing this. So because it's getting super hot. Every year it seems to the summers are getting hotter. Winters aren't necessarily getting colder. We have some colder snaps, but a lot more heat in there. So I also think that, because we're not having those cooler temperatures. I'm going to tell you a little quick story. I was a commercial diver by trade, right? And one of the things that was odd was we would dive into the water. You'd go into the water, and let's say you're working at 5 feet. That 5 feet would be really, really hot water. Mr. Ray is joining us. Then you would go down to, say, 20 feet, and the water would get cool or cold. Then you would go down to 30 feet, and it would get warm. And then you'd go down to 40 feet and get cool. And 50 feet, and it would be warm. And it was really strange to me because what would happen is the summer sun would heat up the water. And then as the winter came, that water level would be hot. And then the cool air on top would push that warm water down, right? And so it would build these layers. And it's kind of where I think we're going with the heat indexes that we're having, and we're not getting cooled down enough, I think, a lot of times in winter. So I do think that we're seeing a lot more heat than we used to see. What do you think about that, Ray?
I would agree with that, and I apologize. My camera, and I'm having a hard time hearing, but my laptop it was in the heat of a day today in the car. It totally discharged the battery, and now I'm here on my iPad, and this is about the most cumbersome thing I've ever done. So,
you're saying that the heat drained the battery. That's exactly what it's doing to the guys out there that are working it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was reading on, when we talked about this today, doing this, I was reading, and Mayo Clinic actually said 3.7 liters a day is what the recommended intake is. So that's 3.7 of these. I mean, this is look at the size of my head. That's a pretty big a bottle. Here on the counter, here's a 2 liter of Minute Maid. It'd be 2 of these of water a day. And that's just from normal intake. That's not counting what you're losing, due to sweat and exertion.
And if you're popping all them sodas and all that kind of stuff,
yep.
That's even worse for you. I mean, your
body can
fight all that stuff. And
Mountain Dew, and I know a lot of us love the Monsters and the Mountain Dews, and golly, that's one of the worst things you can do while you're losing all this fluid. If you're not replacing some of that with water. And I know Eric Seitz, who's on here, a lot. Eric suffers from kidney stones. I had an employee that suffered from kidney stones, and the doctor literally told him, it's these Mountain Dews that are causing this to you. You don't drink water. I mean, this employee was not a very, very, very healthy guy at all, but it was, and he then like swore himself off to only 2 Mountain Dews a day at that point.
I know there's been lots of people that Mountain Dew seems to be one of the worst, but the same thing's coming from a lot of those like Monster Energy drinks.
Right.
They're killers for you for especially out in this heat. They're not designed for that, and they're draining your body of things that you need.
And Doug, also another thing too, if your urine is just consistently dark, you are not. I tried to do some. If your urine is consistently dark and not light color, say you're not drinking enough fluids. Now, keep in mind too, though, if you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, if you eat a lot of stuff, you don't have to get all your water from the 3.7 liters a day of pure water. Because if you're eating a lot of green vegetables, a lot of the fruits, things that have water in it, that counts too. In fact, caffeinated beverages, that counts too, as well. But they do caution against, the too much sugary stuff, because too much sugar is bad for you as well.
And that's where Anthony's coming from. I feel it's more than just staying hydrated, resting, eating healthy, and getting a good night's sleep, letting your body catch up, rehydrating, putting those not just those fluids in, but getting good healthy meals instead of just Burger King and all that kind of stuff, throwing the junk in your body that you're not, because a lot of that stuff. So one of the conversations that I know my wife and I have had dozens of times is that you drink like a soda, and I get like you're wanting more, like they have something in there that makes you crave and want more. So
Right.
They put these chemicals and stuff in there. Same thing with the foods that maybe make you want more or make your body crave salts or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So by eating all that junk, I mean, this is a great thing for just eating healthy anyhow, but nonetheless, it can help you in these hot times.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and Ryan brings up a really good point here. And back in the day, I used to train high school, college age athletes how to wash, and some guys just couldn't take working in the heat, humidity. It's definitely not for everyone.
Absolutely.
But a lot of guys will think about this. I mean, it's one of the reasons that Southern football is honestly so dominant. And so many times that if you ever have a national championship that's going to be played between a northern school and a Southern school, it's almost hands down that the Southern school is going to win, because the Southern school's used to getting out there, and Northern guys might be used to playing in snow and,
but not in that
mid-November. But the Southern guys are used to playing, in 1,000-degree heat with 150% humidity in August. So,
yeah, I definitely think, I mean, the humidity has so much more to do with it too than just the heat. Because even the guys, coming like out of Arizona and all that, I mean, they can do better than say a northern guy from, Washington or Pennsylvania or something like that, because they do have the heat, but they don't have the humidity. And then here in the deep South, as we like to call it, right? You've got not only the heat but the humidity, and it is. I mean, there's a lot of times we have 100% humidity, and it is. You take a shower, you walk outside, you feel like you need to shower.
We call it the air you can wear. I mean, you walk out the front door in the morning, and it's like walking into a blast furnace. And the humidity has so much to do with the heat index of that's why it may be 95 degrees, but the heat index is 115. I mean, it's literally adding 20 degrees to it with the humidity that's out there.
So I want to click on these two real quick. I want to touch on these two real quick. TJ says, I carry electrolyte packets in my truck That's because he's too short to just carry them in his pocket. They're bigger than he is, other than one of them. But
They drag on the ground behind him.
yeah. The next thing he says is, "I'm feeling attacked."
That's from the Monsters and the Red Bulls, because
Exactly.
TJ lives on Red Bulls. I mean, he really does. Wild West brought up here, the Earth has cycles. I mean, absolutely. You ask a dinosaur.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Actually, I think.
What's up, Rhino? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, Liquid IV. My wife is real big on the hydration and stuff. Let's see.
I actually looked at opening up one of those stores, believe it or not.
TNT, I like what he's saying. If you drink juice, you'll be more hydrated than drinking water. Fruit juice has the highest form of oxygen in it. I did not know that. That's good. Stay active, drink more beer, get to work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and I had an extremely good friend who a lot of people know here, and I'm not going to say his name, and he reached out to me one day, and just I got a message on there, and it said help, and I didn't know what, and of course I got that message about 30 minutes after it came in. The message said help, and it was him literally texting me help from a job site just before he fell out into the pool.
Wow.
And he got, as we call it, bear caught, which is, a little heat exhaustion there, and passed out, fell into the pool. It could have worked out real badly for him. Luckily, I think the homeowner was there because he worked alone. Got him out, and he was done for the rest of the day. But that heat exhaustion is bad stuff.
That's a valid point too. I think when we're talking about these things, you look at it and you say, especially if you work alone, okay, because you have nobody there. I think it's really important to know the signs of heat exhaustion, heat stroke, those sorts of things. But it's even more important if you're working alone and you're getting yourself to that point. Especially like if you stop sweating, you really need to deal with that. You need to deal with it now, kind of a thing. So working alone, you really got to. And another thing to think about is, I know a lot of guys like to take their towels and they dip it in like the buckets of ice.
To take their what?
In the buckets of ice, and then you put it on your head. And that can actually even throw you into shock. You need to try to avoid that, even though it might feel good, right? That's one of the things. As a combat medic, so that's one of the things we learned there, and it turns out to be very, very true. Let's see. Real quick, Big Rob had asked about Zep Purple Power Cleaner Degreaser. To me, that's just a mild degreaser. I don't recommend it for commercial jobs, though it can work on mild stuff. I would.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going, what was the project he was doing? I have a hard time scrolling back up on here.
I don't remember what type of job it was. It just asked about the purple.
It'll work in a pinch. Commercial building, washing off the grease. Zep Purple Power. I mean, it works. If I had my choice. I guess it also depends on what kind of grease that I'm working on and what kind of metal elements, what kind of window frames. And that's actually a great point here, because I wanted to bring up the heat. While it's bad for us, it also, for anybody that's seen the plant and property protection class before, it's also really bad for the properties that we work in as well. And we'll touch on that more a little bit later, but you brought up about working alone. And so important. And I mean, how many of us do work alone? And I mean, and while I had gobs of employees, I would still get out there and do the stuff that had to be done myself. And I remember being on roofs, not strapped off, and just in the summertime, and starting to feel that you lose a little bit of balance, you lose a little bit of steadiness to yourself. And this is where it gets dangerous, guys. I mean, it can it can really, really cause you some problems.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole, if you're an owner operator versus having employees. So employees, I always send 2 people out on a job. That's just the way our company operated. There was always 2 guys on a job minimum, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, whatever, but minimum of 2 people, except when I went out on jobs. I would go out on jobs alone all the time, right? So if I go out and I do a job alone, then I am with nobody else and there's nobody to help me through this. And Landon, yeah, hey, we did mention you in the beginning. We were trying to subliminally, did I say that right? Subliminally tell you, Landon, see us.
I'm turning my ear because my volume is down so low on this iPad for some God knows reason. But
I was wondering why you didn't react to what TJ said about you. I guess you
just I'm having a hard time hearing. But there's so much good information out here. Washing sections, take frequent breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony's asking, when it's hot, do you shorten your work days or try to jam in a regular day? Whenever it's super bad, no. I mean, we would try to cut it down. Try to start a little bit earlier if possible. Not try to give the guys.
Yeah, I try to get the guys out the door a little bit earlier, and maybe even tell them take an extended break and work a little bit later. Even though it costs me more money in the end, it actually doesn't, because think about this, the productivity of the guys drops off dramatically once they get to a certain point anyhow. And so if I can schedule it to where they can go to 2 different jobs and maybe they get that air conditioned break, right? So that could be something that maybe you try to schedule things where, okay, they're, normally we'll do, I know some guys, they do 50 house washes in an hour, but you try to get it to where, okay, maybe if we normally do 3 house washes, maybe that's only scheduled 2, to give them, an hour and a half to get to that next job and just cool down a little bit. It might take a little bit more time to get rolling because now you're cooled down. You got to step back out in that blistering heat, but you acclimate pretty quickly again. But they need that little bit of extra time and that extra break. It'll give you better productivity.
I want to go back to this, and we'll hit this about Ryan. Pouring cool water on your wrist can cool your blood to your brain. Yeah, John saw. I want to hit Brian's comment here in a minute when we start talking about the property. Have something on your neck that covers your arteries. Heat can cause blood clot, not reaching your brain. Yep. Lewis, 2 summers ago, fell out standing a dock in a lake. Hospital 4 days to rehydrate.
Yep.
Now hydration packets and pickle juice are my friend. And, we just had, you and I were trying to remember, but someone that we're close to literally just had the situation where they thought they had a heart attack and it turned out it was just very severe dehydration.
Well, and if I remember correctly, the way that goes is that, and I was telling that story in the very beginning, and that was that the ambulance driver said you're having a heart attack, and even the ER, I believe that's how it goes, said he was having a heart attack.
Right.
It wasn't until he went to his doctor and they ran some tests that said that he hadn't had a heart attack, but everything was showing.
He did have a heart. Correct. He did have a heart attack, and it turns out yes, he did have a heart attack, but there was
he actually did. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, again, like putting the things on your wrist and your arms and your legs and all that to cool down, and on your neck, that's a really good thing. But again, just remembering, don't get too carried away with just sticking some ice stuff on your head. I used to like to do that. I used to like to taking my water in my hat, right? And I would take my elbows, make sure the chems are out of it, spray it in my hat, put my hat back on, let the water run down and cool me off. Doing something like that's fine, but putting too much cold on you at one time, if you're
can get you shocky,
can throw you into shock.
So diesel fuel soot, I think traffic going by, got it booked for Thursday. You're probably going to be fine if it's that. Whatever we said, when I first saw grease, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to do. But if it's that, the butyl of Purple Power should do fine about removing the.
Diesel soot's not generally that bad.
Yeah.
It can be, but it's generally not that bad.
Rusty brings a really good point here. Working in Orlando key is to drink water before you start working versus starting to drink when you get thirsty. 100%. Tanya and I were down in Homosassa this weekend for Father's Day, And we've learned finally after 50 some odd years of age is drink a couple of beers, drink a bottle of water, drink a couple of beers, drink a bottle of water. And Tanya's my she's my enforcer on that. And she'll get a bottle of
Making
water and
sure
I'll
you
get
get it.
one and we'll chug it.
Yep, yep.
And then right back to the beer. But still, it's just important to.
My biggest problem is I literally I can't
Yep.
drink water unless it's super cold. I like my water ice cold. If it's not ice cold, I have a real hard time drinking it. And so I have to have, and one of the things that we did, we keep all of our bottles, if you would, we stick them in the freezer, and then we can stick them in the ice chest. They'll keep everything cold, but then I can pull those out all day and sit there and chug those down, if you would.
Right.
Help me keep my body temperature down as well.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons that Power Wash Store, one of the first things, one of the first purchases I made was an ice machine, because I know how important that was for my guys at Spray Wash, how much that got used and how much it was I don't want to say a treat, but an absolute necessity for us.
Right.
And, Tanya and I both said, golly, we're going to do this for contractors as well. And, come by, fill your cooler up, fill your water keg up, do whatever, but take ice,
I think that's TJ's favorite beer, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like water. That's true. 100%. But we were talking about this a minute. What Rusty was saying. Else will be pissing yellow and playing catch up, and that's true. I mean, once you start getting the dark brown urine on there, you're sweating out more water than you're intaking.
Absolutely.
And then and you might make it through the day. You might make it through a couple of days, but oh my gosh, those Charlie horses at night that wake you up, the cramps. Oh, how horrible are those?
Yeah, they are. They can be absolutely miserable. And so much so that the next day, even, you might think you made it through the day, right? And you did. But then you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, and your body is so stiff and so sore, all from that dehydration. So that's why it's important to keep those liquids flowing and flowing. And this is where I think, too, that it also, and I think we're going to get into it anyhow, but transfers over into the plant and property side of it, right? You got to remember that if you are looking for that liquid and you're trying to keep cool, you're trying to keep hydrated, that the plants are as well. And that there are things on the property that get damaged quicker because the heat is there. And when that sauce hits it, that you get the flash oxidation if it's too hot. That's why a lot of times we'll say cool things down before you start your house wash. Even vinyl siding, you're doing a 1% house wash, but it's super hot, everything is super dry. You might consider wetting it down, cooling it off just a little bit, maybe let it dry up a little bit, then going ahead and hitting it and saving you from some of that flash oxidation that can happen.
Yep, I agree. And I'm trying to get a little adjusted here, Doug. Sorry.
No problem. Rusty is saying a bucket hat and a cooling towel is what he uses.
So hold on and let me see if I can get into the studio.
I would even suggest there are those packs that you can buy, right? That you freeze ahead of time or you cool down ahead of time and you wear them under your shirt, let's say. Maybe you buy 3 of them per guy. Okay, you got some expense there. That's okay, right?
We bought the cooling towels,
and you have them wear them. And then as they start getting hot, they could take one off, put another one back on, put that first one back in that ice chest, and kind of let it cool back down, right?
We bought the cooling towels for all of our guys to put around their neck. That was real handy for all the guys. And something else to think about too, Doug, and this is for people our age to think about. And I know the young guys don't think about this, but quite frankly, skin cancer is a real thing.
Yeah.
A real thing, and it can kill you dead. And please wear your protection out there.
Yeah, and I've never been one for doing that. I've never. I know that I should, and I'm seeing it in some of my skin nowadays. because I didn't take care of it back then. Partly because, oh yeah, I'm a young stud. I don't need none of that kind of stuff. Secondly, I naturally I tan really dark, and it kind
Yep.
of covers everything up. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't need all that, when I
Right.
really do need all that.
You don't need all that until you need all that, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, and even hell, I mean, you see, you know, this right here, and I've got that, you know, I've got my Indian letter feather, not a dot, and so get that fairly dark skin, and but you know, I've known too many people that have, you know, died from you know and you know, whenever I was younger in my 30s, my 40s, I'm like, whatever. But you know, now finally, again, once I hit about 48 years old, I think I was confronted with my own mortality. I was like, you know, sunburns kind of suck, and working out in there day in, day out. And that might even be something that I know that we did. We had sunscreen in the truck for the guys, maybe not every day, but in the heat of the summer, there were certainly some spray cans out there that we would spray and encourage. I mean, I'm not going to make them wear it, but we would recommend they wear that.
You know, it's funny, Ryan. I've done the same thing. You know, you hear it coming up and down the streets, you know, in the summertime. And it's like, you know, I try to make sure I'm positioned in such a way that when that ice cream truck comes by, I can get the guys an ice cream, or sometimes you can just bring it to them. So I could see that video happening. That's for true. Anthony brings up another great point. Moisture wicking shirts, board shorts, also a straw hat. Always proper work attire too. So the moisture wicking shirts are phenomenal. You got another one coming in. That's what's going to give us all that echo, Ray. I think he's switching to a different platform here.
Here I am.
All right, so I'm gonna kick the other one out.
Make him go away.
There, he's gone away.
There
all right. So the proper shirts are extremely important. Yeah. And this is where, you know, when you talk about, again, I'm going to boil this down as a business owner to the dollars and cents of it, right? If you get all the cotton shirts, I don't want to spend the money on those shirts. I don't want to spend the money on those shirts. But those moisture wicking shirts that allow that sweat to go away and help keep you cool and all that, those help productivity as well. So if productivity is higher, the shirts pay for pay for themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, what cost you more, a $50, $60? Yeah, that or missing 3-4 days because of a heat stroke, or drowning because you fall off or you fall in a pool, or breaking your damn leg because you fall off a roof, or remember this, whenever we get hot and tired and bothered, we don't think as well. We're not as nimble. We're not as quick. And it's kind of like whenever you're drinking, you may think you are, you may think, oh, I'm just as good as, you know, hot and sweaty as I am, you know, but no, you're really and truly not. And that's where, you know, you can get your butt kicked.
You know, the other thing is as we get older, and I'm guilty of this, you know, where I can still outwork most of them. I mean, even though I haven't been on the job in a while, I can go out, I could still outwork, you know, but that's a problem, right? Because, you know, as we're talking about here, part of it is that, well, matter of fact, with Anthony's comment here about being, you have to acclimate, right? And since I don't do it that much, can I go out and still kick tail? Certainly I could. But I'm probably going to have a problem at the end of the day. Number one, because I'm getting old. Number two, because I'm getting fat. Number three, because I'm no longer acclimated to doing that. So I have to work into it slowly. So if you are an owner operator, or you have somebody that isn't normally out there doing that all day, every day, or you have somebody that's a new employee, you know, give them that little bit of extra time to do the job, because they're going to need it.
Yep. And you know, I had last week, I think I mentioned, can't remember if I mentioned last week or not, but I had like 3 rigs that came in on one day, and we're not really set up with great garage space. So most of our repairs are done out there in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it was brutal. I mean, 3 times in one day, I had to go out there and turn a wrench on people's machines. And it was just like, this is kicking my butt. I'm getting soft. I mean, I haven't really, you know, steadily washed anything since last, you know, December. I've consulted on a few jobs, but yeah, you acclimate to getting soft and getting used to air conditioning. And yeah, Absolutely.
Believe me, it doesn't take very long either. And so, even if you've got a guy coming back from vacation, let's say, and they are no longer acclimated. My wife and I were talking about this, where she's doing jujitsu, she's lifting weights, she's doing really good, looking hot. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, so her trainer has told her, hey, take a little bit of time off, and then trying to get back into that. The exercising of it is difficult when you've had that time off. So
that's right.
Time off, you got to give it that little bit of extra time to roll back into it.
100%. Hey, BB, hope you're doing well, buddy. I love this from Ryan. Maybe having company issue coolers, lunch boxes. That was one of the things that we bought. Everybody that worked for us, they got a 1 gallon Arctic, not the Yeti, but the Arctic, steel cooler. It got monogrammed with their name on it. They could decorate it however they wanted to. It wasn't a loaner. It was theirs, but they were expected to have it, every day.
Every day before my trucks rolled out, there are ice chests in each truck. And each truck, every morning they have to fill it up with the ice bottles like I talked about. So they would get ice bottles, and then they would just get bottles out the refrigerator. They weren't allowed to take the warm ones out. They had to take the ones from the refrigerator. And we had that refrigerator emptied every single day. And then the office manager would go back in after they roll out, and he'd fill them all back up again, right? And then that way, that was, I'm not going to say it was mandated, but it was mandated. Right. You had to do that every single time. And then
we did stop buying the water bottles because we gave them the water kegs. Now, the one thing we did, though, and made it optional, they didn't have to, but we did the powdered Gatorade, and people could. We went through a lot.
The reason I didn't do the reason I like the water bottles is I'm able to more. I don't want to use the word control, but control consumption. So if every day they come in and I'm not seeing that water going out, then I know that they're not drinking enough water. So that was more a mental cue for me to know that truck isn't taking enough water on every day, and they need to be doing that.
And you're right. I mean, summer is proactive versus reactive is cheaper than workers' comp claim and medical bills.
Absolutely.
And you think that, okay, well, I'm not going to have a workers' comp claim on that. Actually, you can. You can, and you will whenever, and it won't end well for you. I mean, it really won't. I mean, that's why we pay this insurance. But and I say it's not going to end well. It's not like you're going to get sued. I mean, this is what your workers' comp is there for. But you're going to understand, guys, workers' comp is the best thing in the world, but it's making a deal with the devil. The best way I can describe workers' comp, because here's what happens on workers' comp. I get bear caught. I get some heat exhaustion. I have a heat stroke or heat, whatever. And my guy has to go to the walk-in clinic, and the doctor's going to tell him, "Oh, are you workers' comp?" Yes.
Yay! 40 days in the hospital.
And so they're now going to go in there and say, okay, well, I want you to take a couple of days off, and we need to see you again in 2 to 3 days. Here's your order for your thing, or maybe you need to take a week off.
No duty or light duty, yeah.
You're either you're assigned to light duty or you're off. Well, how many of us actually have a light duty thing we can do in our office? I had an employee that suffered a chemical burn, and he was not allowed to spray. And they said, okay, light duty. And, it was like, okay, but what do I do? What do we do with light duty? But they literally kept this man out of work. It was either for 3 or 4 weeks waiting on the camp. And he was, after a week, he's like, God, I should have never gone in there. I feel great.
Yeah, he can say all he wants. I'm ready to go back to work.
But I think you're not medically cleared to do that. You're not medically cleared. And I get in trouble if you're not medically cleared to do this.
You have to follow the rules on that, even though it sucks, right? And they have to follow the rules.
Absolutely does.
It sucks.
Hey, Jerry, hope you're doing well today. But yeah, it's I mean, it's just, workers' comp just absolutely. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a great insurance policy in case of something really tragic happening. But it just sucks for the smaller stuff because you might feel fine. But so I would say it's a blank check for the insurance and the doctors. Now it's going to be a week for the doctor to check you out. Okay, we need you to come back. Okay, let's see. All right, well, I think I still would like to see you on light duty. I may need to see you one more time on there. But when you file the workers' comp claim, and this is important to understand the laws in your state. And tell
because every place is different with things.
You understand that, like in Florida, you understand if you file the workers' comp, you're automatically going to get half salary, not full salary. You're going to get 1/2 of your salary. And even if you feel wonderful, if you have stitches on your hand, if you tweaked your back, if you did this or that or the other, until that doctor says you're okay to go back to work, I cannot get you back to work.
Absolutely.
And in a lot of ways, I mean, so, and even for the guys, and I know we've had some people that I would dare say are going to play the workers' comp game. A lot of times they're really sadly disappointed when
they get half.
Oh, wait, I don't get paid. I don't get paid my full amount. No, not in Florida. You don't. I don't know if your neck of the woods is that. So,
I think ours is full because I had a guy that, and he was definitely riding the train, if you would. And
right.
Matter of fact, I had video because I had video cameras in my shop, and he's supposed to not be able to walk and move and do all this stuff, and they put him on light duty. And so I put him just sweep up the shop. He was jumping over ladders and he was dancing and doing it's all on video. It's like, really, dude? Come on now.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, before we go too far, I want to go back to this one just because Ryan also says something about first aid kits. And man, definitely you want to have your first aid kits in there. I don't know which one you clicked on, Ray, so you might want to click on it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go back to it. My bad.
Oh, no, I clicked off of it. I'm just saying I wanted to make sure I brought that back up because to me, first aid kits and having those packs that you can crush and cool and even the heat, the ones for heat, like especially towards the wintertime, I think are important to have. And you also want to have a first aid kit that has everything in it, and even have an inventory of the items in there, maybe even a sheet on the top that when they take something out, they have to say, hey, I took this out in the date so that you can keep track of. And, some people say, well, yeah, my guys don't want to do that because they feel like I'm, checking in on them. No, it's because I got to keep it. I have to keep that stocked, and I have to keep it properly stocked.
Yeah,
I got to know what's missing.
That's part of it, and that's part of, you need to understand what is the OSHA requirements for a medical kit on here. You need a portable eye wash station. Now it could simply be a bottle of saline with an eye wash cup on there. But in our business dealing with chemicals, you need a portable eye wash in your vehicle. And I would assume for extreme heat, Matt, and you've got your employees out there in extreme heat, you probably, it could be argued if somebody wanted to take you to court for improper work conditions or something. I think it could. Holy crap! Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay. I think it could be argued that if you did not provide certain things or those, you could find yourself on the receiving end of it.
I know one of the arguments that we heard before was about, dude, you got a hose pipe right there, so that qualifies as an eye wash station. Well, think about this though. First of all, especially out right now in the heat, and you're not thinking correctly, and you spray some stuff in your eyes, and your guy goes over and grabs the first hose that he can find because he can't see maybe, and now he's spraying more sauce in his hose. And some of us use the same type or size hoses as we might use. The only thing different is the gun on the end. But if you're got all that in your eyes and you're just not thinking correctly, you could grab the wrong gun. You use a Gilmore sprayer. I use a Gilmore sprayer. What is a Gilmore sprayer? Gilmore sprayer is what you put on the end of a hose pipe to water your yard with. Okay. He grabs that thinking that it's something to rinse his face off with, yet it's a roof mix, right? So that's why having those eye wash stations is super important. This time, I think he's gone until he gets back on his phone. I think he probably was on his computer, had it all set up, and he thought that it had a good enough charge when it didn't. So hopefully he'll come back in on his phone. But, that's why it's important to make sure that you do have a good eye wash station. And if you can get those little things, they're an eye cup, right? And they go right on the end of a water bottle. And so you can sit there and squeeze that off. And if you've got somebody that's maybe even prone to it, maybe preload one, right? Have it there ready with something over the top so that they have that eye wash station ready and available to them. Wild West is saying light duty equals admin duty. Yeah. But the problem with that even is that there's some things I don't want my guys doing certain admin duties, right? So I might just take them with me, or I might have them, I might have them even do training videos, sit and watch training videos, right? Anything to keep them busy or to help create training videos, right? Have them go around just with an iPad or whatever and go around jobs and do, their own individual sort of training type video things that then can be shared with the others around it, just to keep them busy if that's what it is.
And my laptop just died again, so I had to switch back to my iPad in case you're wondering why the sudden thing. So
yeah, no, that's what I figured.
So Rusty's just full of good knowledge tonight, and the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Okay, spend it now or spend it later, and it's so true. I'm gonna
cut you again, Ray, because Rusty is not only doing really great tonight, he does great almost every time.
Sure.
And same thing with Ryan and Wild West, and I mean, I could go on and on with the names.
Yeah, MTH, all these guys are.
We have a smart group that is there. I mean, I can't say enough for the people.
No, 100%. I mean, I would even say the same thing for Scott whenever he joins us,
Really?
And this is, well, okay, maybe I am stretching it there.
Yeah, you had too much.
Just put it in perspective right here, especially for us guys, that were like Doug and I, that weren't necessarily on the truck all the time. But if you're that guy that's starting to scale up, but a lead technician needing workman's comp in the middle of peak season for a company with 2 rigs and 4 employees can really hurt business production. Job turnover, inexperience running a rig in the field, and losing customers. Absolutely. Forcing an owner back on the truck and not doing sales. That's scary for guys that are scaling.
Absolutely.
100% mic drop, boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that you have to think about those kinds of things, because the loss of productivity at that specific time, your busiest time, one lead tech can create a world of problems for you.
And that does remind me. So Wild West brought this up, and thank you. If y'all are watching us on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the little bell, do the little thing that makes it say, hey, we're relevant out there, because that's what YouTube will do to send us out and make us, out there more. So please do if you've not. Hey, Brian, hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining in. Big Rob, agreed. I mean, I think we got some of the best guys out here. Same way with Spray Wash Academy on Facebook. I think it's probably the smartest forum that's out there. And I sure hear that from a lot of members. And God knows when I go to the other forums and see the questions that are asked there, I know it.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's just amazing when you watch and you look and see some of the answers that you see in some of the groups. And even in Spray Wash Academy, we get some answers that are just like out there. And we typically delete them if we see them, because we can't see every comment.
If the admins see bad information, the admins will delete bad information.
Absolutely.
And we have a fairly active. I mean, we're not aggressively active, but the admins that are out there we're looking at a lot of stuff, and that's also one of the reasons we don't get a lot of trolls in the group. We don't get a lot of yahoos, and we don't get a lot of how do I wash this and how do I wash this and how much should I charge questions either. They're more technical. Anthony, what's happening, buddy? One of my Tallahassee peeps here. So,
And as much
and
as I
if
don't
you're
like
on
to,
Facebook, hit the thumbs up button too while you're at it. So,
as much as I don't like to say anything good about TJ, I gotta say, as one of our admins, he is by far one of the best and does a great job at
which one is that?
TJ.
Oh God, but also a guy that doesn't take a lot of crap either.
Yeah, exactly.
So God bless him.
But he delves correctly, So, like I said, just one thing.
So, Ryan, you have to provide your own laces for the Huck boots. There's some fine print in there. So, take a hole puncher and punch some holes where you want your laces at, and do that. Yep. So, and Michael Ovens, what a great freaking guy.
Yeah,
Henry's one of my favorite people in Tallahassee with Big Bend, and another just great guy. I've watched his meteoric rise. Anthony the same way. I absolutely. I always, even
you can't be friends with
anybody that knew me when I owned Spray Wash. It was like, you're willing to help me.
Yeah.
But now that I don't, I love it even more seeing these guys just, just skyrocket, and it's incredible. And I've had some guys who've come in and said, I thought you'd be mad that
I got that job.
I took an old account of yours or something. I'm like, no, come here, look at House Call Pro. Let me show you what we used to, I want to help. I want to see people just thrive in this business, because I want people to thrive.
Yeah.
But so let's cut also for a second. I know we've been talking about
employees and us.
I know we've been talking about the heat factor on us, but coming up to the huge convention, we've got our plant and property protection class, Doug, and I'd be remiss if I don't give the plug for this, because just as I think Ryan may have mentioned it, this heat, not only is it tough on us, but it's really, really tough on our properties, and we have to do some extra special care on our properties. Ryan earlier mentioned that you can miss a plant, and you can cause damage to a plant by misting it with water on hot days like this.
Just water.
Just water. Japanese maple, go mist it with water and see what happens on there. You'll defoliate the crap out of it. So whenever you get out here and you start watering, you need to water aggressively. Yeah. You need to water the snot out of stuff, not just a little bit. I just had 2 pallets of sod laid in my yard about a month and a half ago. And, the one of the warnings the landscaper gave us was, hey, you know what? Don't water this in the middle of the day. But if you do, it needs to be flooded. But if you put just a little bit of water on here, you're going to fry it.
And the same holds true with all the plants. It's actually worse on your flowering plants, and it's worse on some of your trees and your bushes and all that, where everything's just gonna, if it doesn't run off, it'll sit there and it can actually bake, and it can be intensified by the water. So you gotta make sure you're aggressively rinsing, hardcore, and make sure you're. So one of the things that going back and mentioning that is that if you ever notice, Ray, and I didn't think about this till just now, honestly. So almost every single year, when do we start getting, man, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what happened. I don't burn these plants. What happened? I don't get it. I did the same house wash mix I always do, and yet for some reason these plants burned. It's because we're not paying attention to, hey, the heat index has gone up. The sun is out. It's the angle of the sun. All of it has changed. And
well, Doug, just like the heat's kicking our ass, the heat's kicking the plants' asses too.
Yeah.
Ryan brings up a good point here. Strategically working in the shade on certain properties with delicate landscaping. Hell, not only that, commercial buildings. I used to, I would just get so aggravated at the guys when we were doing a big commercial building, and I would get up there, with tons of windows, and the crew leader would start on the east side in the morning, and he's spraying the building, and I'm like, dude, you know better than this. You're spraying this. You've got 1,000 reflective mirrors, and you're spraying SH on everything, and it's just baking on. I mean, whenever we've got hot sun on reflective windows, let's start in the morning on the west side and work our way against the sun, not with the sun, because now whenever you get to the west side, you're going to be fighting the afternoon sun as well.
We've got to know your area and know how the sun rotates around and how your buildings are going to cast shadows all day. And if you know where that is, you work that shade as it's going around. That's going to help you. Not
100%. Oxidation. This is where we need to cool down our surfaces. We need to cool, and I don't mean just cool down metal roofs. I'm talking about siding. We need to cool down the vinyl. We need to cool down anything that's on the eastern and western exposures.
Virtually any paint can oxidize on you, right? So
and any vinyl siding can oxidize.
Exactly.
And any hardy board can oxidize. It all can oxidize, especially whenever take for fun. Go to Harbor Freight and get a digital thermometer. I think you would all be shocked if you sat there and went beep right in there. You know, Doug, we did that in Spray Wash Pro. We did the well, you did it with the landscaping on plant and property. But, you know, we also did that on a TPO roof to show, you know, we did a video in Pro on that, showing that, I mean, it was like a 30-degree difference on a dirty.
Absolutely amazed. You know what? That's a really good idea. And I think it's something that I would encourage you guys to do with your guys, right? If you go out on a job, get one of those digital thermometers, right? Go out on a job and take some temperatures in the middle of the day. Take a temperature on a plant and see what that plant's temperature actually is. And take a window frame. You're not necessarily going to catch the glass pane. You have to have something there that helps it catch it. But the windows, the window frames, the plants, everything around there. Take your different temperatures, right? You're going to be shocked at some of the temperature points that reaches to, because when we're talking about, you know, it's 90 degrees outside, that's ambient temperature. That's not what the sun is baking on. You ever walk up to something and you put your hand on it and it burns you? It's not burning, right? I mean, it literally will burn your skin.
Burns you.
What does it take to do that, right? So take those temperature readings. Even if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your guys to help them sink it into their brain of, wow, I can't believe it's that hot.
Yep. I want to hit this one from Wild West. Can we get a rundown on your SOP on a SOS employee call? Absolutely. Do you need medical attention? Call an ambulance. Absolutely. I mean, that's my, you know, well, what's going on here? Well, no, I think he's okay. Listen, I don't want to think, do we need to drop hoses and take, I mean, is he what status is he? I mean, you know, well, he's just really, really, really feeling, you know, drained. Okay, I want him to go sit in the truck, turn the air conditioner on, drink some fluids. I mean,
is he still sweating? Is he stopped sweating? You know,
is he laid out in the yard? I mean, call a freaking ambulance. You know, I'll never be pissed at someone if they cost me money doing something silly that's going to help. That could.
Right.
I would much rather that happen than something horrible happen to an employee. You know, but yeah, I mean, your standard operating procedure is take care of the employee first.
I don't want to say your standard operating procedure should be to get medical attention, because if they don't need it, they don't need it. But to address it
right
quickly, and if it's needed, and not only that,
right? No, I'm not saying call it, but I mean, you know, tell the crew leader needs to say, the crew leader needs a basic understanding of, you know, what is heat stroke or what is heat exhaustion, and you know, do they need to go sit down? Do they need to be in the shade? Do they need to, you know?
You also need to be the brain that your employee isn't. And what I mean by that is simply this: when they call you up and they say, you know, Ray's he's hot, he's not looking away, he's turning kind of pale or whatever. One of the first things you should do is get him out the sun. Let's get him, you know, in the truck, air conditioning, whatever. Get him in the shade. because I had that call and I wasn't very far away, and I go over to the job site to check on. They're literally sitting in the sun. I'm like, why are you guys? I mean, if you guys are having a heat problem, why are you sitting in the sun? And the guy was really, he was just distraught over the amount of heat that he had. So get him in the sun, cool him down. There's no problem taking a hose pipe and running water over the pants and cooling the lower extremities down and getting that blood cooled down a little bit, get him out the sun. So I'm just saying, use your brain because they may not be using theirs.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And but you need, but this is also Wild West. This is where you need to talk to this about your crew leaders. I mean, everybody's going to be different. I don't think there is an SOP for that, but you need to have it in writing, and you need to discuss it because every company is going to be different. And I don't know if you can address every potential medical issue that's out there. I need to look at it. We sell David Duramo's SOPs. It'll be interesting. I need to look at that and see, is there a SOP for a medical emergency on there? And if there's not, and it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't have one.
Yeah,
because he was a former paramedic firefighter on there. Going back to Ryan, working in the shade, reschedule, wait it out, pay to fix, replace Ethel's orchid lilies, must survive. 100%,
Absolutely. You'd be surprised at those plants that are, again, we've talked about this in the past where, this was a plant that was given to us because, so-and-so passed away. And so that becomes their prized possession. And you need to take extra special care of that plant.
Yep. Water before, during, and after. Been watering a lot lately. Also Tyvek. Who is that guy? Who was that guy that said, that first talked about Tyvek in the industry? I
think he's some fat old guy that
gray hair, kind of good hair, but it's gray. 100%. Agent Halt, Agent Halt. Then John Sacco's neutralizer, or John Sacco, sorry, Galt. Oh my God, Joe Shuttle's neutralizer. I just saw John's name right underneath that. Anything and everything you can do. The house mix. If you've got a Galvalume roof, and hey, what are we doing at the huge convention? We're doing our pro. We're doing our pro class on the metal roofing.
Metal roofs and other stuff.
The
specialty coatings, metal roofs and specialty coatings. I don't know why I couldn't get that out.
The metal roofs. I mean, how many times have we seen things in other groups where people have shown like, oh, I turned this metal roof black, or just from my house mix. Well, yeah, because it's a Galvalume roof and you're spraying it literally in this middle of the sun at 4:00 in the afternoon. The metal's going to win, in that scenario.
Absolutely. And it's always going to win. And you don't know when it's going to turn, where it's going to turn, why it's going to turn. There's no real rhyme or reason a lot of times.
Sun will turn water into a magnifying glass and burn everything. You have got to soak.
Yep. So I'm assuming that Amerigo's on here, but we're not seeing you on here. I'm not seeing you.
Let's see here. 1:00 rule will be on the east side by 1 p.m. starting on the west side, working clockwise and finish in the south. The sun is, 100%, Michael. That's what we were saying earlier, 100%. I even had somebody come in the office, store the other day, and they said, oh my God, I cleaned a roof with like 15%. And I was like, yeah,
it works.
Yeah. You can, I was at 1.5 on the proportion, or I didn't realize. I was like, yeah, you're so hot out there. Remember this too, guys.
It's intensifying. It's intensifying the bleach, if you would.
Well, think about this too. You're literally spraying. What's the first part to evaporate? The water. You spray a SH mix on a roof, the water part is evaporating. It becomes a much, much, much stronger solution than you're planning on doing. As the water evaporates, it was a 2% SH. Now all of a sudden it's a 3-4% SH because there's less water in there. The water just poof, goes
Evaporates
away.
off right away.
There was that amazing picture years ago that was out there. I mean, so many of these guys there's so many new guys that have never seen it. But the guy was spraying the SH, and it was talking about the need for a respirator, and you could literally see the water vapors. Remember this picture? I think it was from the RCIA, but you could see the water vapors literally
think
evaporating.
But think about it too. You're watching as you're spraying a roof. You're literally watching those gases come up, and if you get a good whiff of that, that's why I highly recommend anytime you're doing any bleach spraying, a respirator.
Yep.
But most certainly if you're doing a roof, and especially if it's the heat of the day, you're gonna you get a good inhale that just one time. You're gonna feel it in your lungs all day, if not for.
And that's why we wear respirators on roofs. God knows you should be wearing respirators on roofs, especially in the summertime. You should be wearing them all the time. You should damn sure be wearing them in the summertime. Ryan, Ryan brings up a funny point here, though, but he's serious. In some ways, we should have those employee service meetings. We should have what we have on Spray Wash Pro that Agent Clean so generously donated to us. But your weekly meetings, we've got 52 of them on there. We've got a year's worth of them where you have your OSHA safety briefing with your crew on there. One of your safety briefings should be about heat stroke and heat exhaustion and proper hydration. What a perfect time, and what a perfect time to sit there and give your employees the water kegs. Or Arctic coolers.
Absolutely. I want to touch on this one real quick, Anthony. It's never too windy for Tyvek, and I'll tell you why. There's ways of using Tyvek. I think we covered that in the plant and property anyhow. But if you take your Tyvek over, say, a bush, right, and then you drape it up on the two sides a little bit, you just fill that bottom full of water. And you can also take clamps. I've got clamps around here. You can take clamps. I think I got one sitting right here. Somewhere, and you can clamp right to the bottom of a bush, those kinds of things to keep, because I'd rather do that, maybe break a twig accidentally, than to kill the plant or to burn the plant up, kind of a thing. So
ammonia capsules to be in your first aid kit. Garrett carrying packets of liquid, another one of my Tallahassee boys. Liquid IV is clutch at this time of the year as far as personal hydration. If the homeowner has irrigation, you ask them run an hour before you show up. An hour after you leave is extra insurance. Best podcast in the industry. Damn right.
That was, I know everybody can't do it, but we have a friend that, was a firefighter that he used to do IV drips on his way home. Yeah.
Medical emergency. Hold on. Hold on. So hold on. Now, Henry just bought, if I remember correctly, I don't mean to rat you out, the SOPs on there. And he said he thinks there is a medical emergency SOP in there. So thank you very much. I need to, it wouldn't surprise me, because David said he was a former firefighter and medic. So pretty,
that's what we use, Anthony.
There we go. That either makes you a hunk or that makes you very, very tired.
There you go.
I think that makes you very tired if you have 9 kids.
There you go. Yeah.
Chemical pneumonia.
And they're very active kids from what I'm hearing. And very good. One of his son is referred to as Flash, I guess, at jiu-jitsu. So.
What's up, Gene? 3 dot. That must be Gene O'Neill. So yeah, the respirator is our friend. Your respirator is so important, guys. And take it. I see some old guys in here, but at the same time, I see some younger guys. Take it from people mine and Doug's age, and you think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof whenever you're in your 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
It sucks to be even 52 and I do not have the lung capacity that I used to. I'm not saying I'm on oxygen an invalid whatsoever, but I certainly get a lot more winded than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't surprise me that if the root cause wasn't because of my exposure to bleach.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, I think that it's one of those conversations that I go back to that happened years ago, on the old forums that, somebody was going back and forth with somebody about, oh, you don't need a respirator. You don't need a respirator. And the end deal was the one guy that was really pitching the respirator and the other guy that was saying, I don't need one. Been doing this for 30 years and, never needed a respirator, kind of thing. And then the last comment was, yeah, you have emphysema.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He's got emphysema. So it's kind of like, yeah. How's that go? By the way, Amerigo actually goes by Ricky. And so I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's how I understand.
What are your thoughts on wearing respirators while doing house washing or lower mixes?
What are your thoughts on wearing respirators while doing house washing? And absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
You always wear a respirator. Everything in moderation, right? If you're washing one house a year because it's yours and you don't want to wear a respirator, great. If you're having guys go out and I look at it this way too. Part of it is liability, right? You're sending your guys out there and you're telling them, you don't have to wear a respirator. It's a mandated thing for me, right? You have to wear it because if they have any lung issues, whether it's today or 6 years from now, who's getting sued? You are, right?
I'll tell you what, I would never mandate them. I mean, I told the guys to wear them on the roof as we developed as a company. They were always in the truck. I gave the guys options, but at the same time, I would say, yes, this is what you should be doing. And they were here, and there were always respirators in the truck. Yeah, on the roof, I expected the guys to wear them now early on when I was finding my way through the business. No, I didn't require it. But 5-6 years ago, I said this is something that y'all need to do.
Yeah. I still say
for not wearing it. I probably should have, but I didn't.
Yeah. The thing about it is, though, Ray, is that everything, like we keep saying, in moderation, right? So if it's something where they're washing, a house, a year, but they're not. They're around this stuff every single day. That's why I say, and it definitely is mandated by me. If I show up and my lead tech doesn't have that thing around his neck, because while he's not spraying, he can take it off, right? And just let it dangle around his neck. But once he starts spraying, he's got to put it on, spray his bleach. And if he goes to water, once he switches to water, he can take it off. But while he's spraying, he's got to wear it.
Yep.
I didn't mandate that the ground guys had to wear it. That I didn't do.
Here's Jim working every day. Gene brings up a good point here. Guys, from fumes on the roof is a challenge. You got to approach your spraying techniques differently to keep fumes to a minimum. 100%. What are you going to do? I'm going to get out there. At this point, heat of the summer, I'm going to start putting my extensions on my wands. I'm going to go and try to get stuff closer to the roof and not just get out there Gilmore gun and like a spastic monkey, just spraying everything. I'm going to try to get the stuff as close to the roof as possible.
And I'm going to try to work with the wind.
So I'm not wide broadcasting.
Spraying into it.
And God knows if there's any wind, I'm going to get on the downside of that or the upside of that wind, not the downside of that wind, and spray where it's if I'm here, I want it to carry that. I want it to carry that
and
way.
Remember,
so
that's
on this
not
side.
Just for you, right? If the wind is blowing that way, you have to look and see, are there trees that direction?
Yep.
And don't be surprised if you get that phone call of, you guys washed my roof 2 weeks ago and my tree turned brown and dropped all of its leaves. Okay. You put that tree into shock and it did that, right? It's going to survive. It's going to come right back. It's going to look beautiful, when it repopulates itself. But
we have that slide, in
planting property.
Planting property, even a house wash versus the sun. What's going to win? The sun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, every time. Mother Nature wins on everything all the time, no matter what we do. We put big concrete barriers up in front of the ocean to prevent the ocean from doing stuff. And guess what? The ocean still does stuff.
Yep, still goes wherever it wants to go.
Yeah.
Exactly, Wild West. Never piss in the wind. 100%.
Yeah, and never piss on an electric fence or piss on a blade of grass that's touching an electric fence. Don't ask me how I know. Anyhow, all right, yep. And see here's Anthony's being smart. Anytime spraying any mix, wear a mask and gloves. Booyah! And if you
yes,
fix it.
The one that I had, the one that Mark Carraro used to sell, and I don't know if he even has access to them anymore. That one, and then I've had one of those, and they're all owned by Crystal Clean now. There was 3 of them that I found, but Mark Carraro, look him up on Facebook, see if he even has access to them anymore. They were amazing. And it was a full face, had the thing in there. It didn't fog up and sweat. It was really, really nice. It had some ventilation in here. Then there was another one that I found on Amazon. And then actually I got a gas mask, a real live gas mask at one point from that Knife of the Month Club battle box that actually worked fairly well on that. However, the only problem that I had with that, it wasn't an N95 filter that was on there, so you couldn't really go, yes, guys, this is safe to work with, because it was not a. And remember this about respirators, AGOV, organic vapor acid gas, and you need a minimum of an N95 on there. Now, this is another thing that's weird. COVID made respirators get real rare. We carry them.
For a while, we couldn't get any of them.
What's that?
I said for a while we couldn't get any of them at all.
Yeah, we have a very good stock of them. Power Wash store. I think all the franchises have them. We have them. But a Gershom, disposable respirator that's good for 30, 45 days or so. We carry those that come in their own, carry pouch. It's resealable. It's not a full face. That's just a mask with the.
Well, I can tell you,
on it.
We purchased all of our lead techs a full face mask.
Right.
And we got the good ones, so that they wouldn't, fog up on the inside. I can tell you it was a huge waste of money. And the reason that it was a huge waste of money is I find them on the floor of the truck, and they had a pouch to themselves and everything. They wouldn't get scratched up. And I'd find them out of the pouch and and they never had the respirators put on them or anything. And they'd be all scratched up and all that. And it made it, the guys didn't like them, not just because they were big and bulky, but the spray, as they would get any kind of spray on it. And
now you got to keep a wet rag so you can wipe your thing off. So I want to know who the hell's saying something to you, because it must be amazing.
It is.
I kind of want to know what you're looking at, but I also kind of don't. So
yeah.
It was so bad he had to leave. That's amazing. Very nice. But yeah, that is the one thing I've found about the full, especially in the wind, the full face respirator. If you get any blowback on there, the SH dries just crystal white. So you've got to have a wet rag to immediately be able to wipe that off on there. I've got some great video for me doing actually the Florida headquarters of the EPA. And I had to wear one of those because we were knocking lichen off with a 25-gallon a minute pump that was just, insane. But it was like knocking salad. But I put the full face mask on. Yeah. So rinse your face shield, and all of a sudden you get your filters wet, and the filters stop working as well.
Absolutely.
Too, so
and again, that was part of it with that full face thing, is that even though they could see out, and it was even big enough that because one of my guys, he wears contacts, and so he would wear his glasses sometimes because wearing his contacts, if he got anything in his eye. So he would wear the full face thing on occasion. But even with him, like you said, I couldn't, because as soon as I sprayed, it would get on the outside of it, and then I'm trying to wipe it, and then I'm getting it on, I get it all over my clothes, and I'm doing other things, and if I take the mask off, So with a regular respirator, they just unhook it in the back and then they drop it down and it hangs over here. With the full face thing, they can't. They got to take it off, and then what do they do with it?
Yeah, because it doesn't want to like rest up here very well. It's going to pop off and go out there. You can't bring it down here. Sorry, I don't mean to blind you with the baldness.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
and I apologize. That was
no, it's fine. I love it. I mean, that sounds like something I would do. Anyway, Doug, we're a buck 20 into this at this point. So, guys, again, just practice really good plant and property protection right now, and also practice good personal protection, because this is the time of the year where you can fall out, you can get bear caught, your employees can get bear caught. And if you don't know what bear caught means, that's Southern for I've had heat exhaustion, heat stroke, heat, just whatever you want to call it,
Even think about people walking by your job sites, because again, the water is going to come out of that mix a lot faster, and they're going to get overwhelmed by the fumes and things like that. So think about all of those.
Yeah, the evaporation is a huge deal with at this temperature. And when in doubt, cool every surface down. Mm-hmm. Spray your sidings down, spray your metal roofs down, hell, spray your shingles down, because if your chemical evaporates faster, and the water will evaporate out of it, but at the same time, the SH will evaporate a little bit slower. But if it evaporates faster than it can work, you're not doing yourself any good. You're actually going through more chemical than you need to.
And you'll burn it up.
That's funny, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's funny. So again, guys, we appreciate y'all's friendship. We appreciate your viewership. Make sure you hit your thumbs up if you're on YouTube or Facebook. Sound the alarm. We appreciate y'all.
Definitely.
Yep. There you go. Gene said, drink more beer. When your urine is foaming, you're good. Perfect. Use water as a wetting agent. 100%.
And not urine.
Yep. That actually reminds me, and this next week we ought to talk about this, Doug, but I have had two separate people report to me that they're using, and I never used it that much, because I'm like, well, bleach is cheap. Bleach ain't cheap anymore.
Yeah.
But Agent Green on tile roofs, and they've been able to cut back their tile roofs from 60% to 30 and 40%.
Wow.
On their tile roofs by using a bleach enhancer or a bleach booster out there, which winds up being huge, not only for the cost, but then also for the danger aspect of it and what you're kicking off onto the ground and what you're breathing in. But we'll talk about that in a week coming up.
There you go. That would
absolutely be Matt Cooper just said it. Keep all surfaces cool with water just before cleaning it. 100%, Matt. Guys, thank y'all very much. We appreciate you, and we will see y'all next Monday. And y'all know that Doug and I are always available to pro members. Just reach out and ask us your questions.
Appreciate
y'all.